Welcome to TimSold Talks. Join us as we dive into all things real estate, talk about business, food, cars, and much more with industry experts. Dream it, believe it, achieve it. Welcome back to TimSold Talks, episode 4 today. Our very special guest, Christopher, aka Chef Salmon. He's been a private chef. He's the founder of Authentic Fusion Catering. He's been a private chef for a few years. He catered one of my own events a few years ago, and we're very happy to bring him on board. And thank you very much for this treat today. Thank you for coming.
You're surely welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. No, just as we're getting started, what do we have? What do we have for our tasters today?
Okay, so what we have here is a little bit of a fusion style for me.
Yeah.
I have sushi rice underneath. It's just marinated in mirin. Mm-hmm. Then on top you have a marinated sushi grade tuna. Mm-hmm. So it's just a little bit of salt, pepper, unagi sauce, a little bit of soy sauce, and sesame oil. Wow. Underneath you have just avocado. It's just with salt and pepper, just fresh. Mm-hmm. Then on top you have pickled ginger. Yeah. You have Japanese mayo and just a dip of wasabi sauce.
All right, this looks appetizing. Don't mind if I start and dig into this. And we have some extras for everyone here, but let's try some of this. Ooh. It's not too spicy, right?
No, you're fine.
Oh, that tuna is so fresh. I think this episode is just me watching me eat here. So good.
Honestly, this is the first thing I've had the whole day because I've just been going since 5 a.m. this morning.
Oh, wow. You have an event today or just a normal day for you?
It's just well, yes and no. So I had a client that I had to go see. Mm-hmm. Then I'm changing processing service, so I had to sit on a long meeting trying to get them to integrate it to my website, and it was just a cumbersome process. So it was just from one thing to the other. And typically I don't eat breakfast. Okay, it's just coffee and water. And then I'll have dinner around 5 or 6.
So that's, I guess, falls in line with kind of like the intermittent fasting kind of schedule, or?
Yeah, pretty much.
Any particular reasons why you do that, or is it just habits, or what?
So most of it is habit. Ever since I was a kid, I never used to like eating breakfast that much. So most of it is just habit. And then working in the industry, being busy, you would start at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. sometimes, depending on where you're working. You got to commute. You just never really have time. Once you get to work, then you're working. Yeah. If there is a prepping error where someone is short on cutting something where you got to portion it and weigh it and all of that, then you're delayed. So then when lunchtime comes around, you miss your lunch. So then you can't eat lunch. Then it's a lunch rush. By the time the lunch rush is over, then you got to clean up and sort of stock up for the night shift. By the time that's done, then it's like night.
It's nighttime and you're like, oh, time for bed.
Exactly, right? So sometimes you have the choice. Do I shower or eat and then go to bed? Shower and just go to bed. And then
so tired by then, right?
Yes.
So.
Right. So then it becomes like a perpetual thing where you just don't eat that often. And it's normal in the culinary industry where the chefs, they're cooking all the time, but they don't eat.
They don't actually eat, right?
Yeah.
Wow. And I guess, based on the science, I think going back like to our ancestors too, they didn't really have a lot of food, like 3-4 meals a day. That's unheard of. That's more of a North American kind of like,
don't get me started.
Modern, right? So a modern kind of diet. So if you go back, most humans can kind of function on 1 or 2 meals a day and very minimal kind of like food intake, right? It's
definitely. Yeah. And I would say that I find that myself personally, I function better. It's let me put it in perspective. I feel a little bit more hungry and aggressiver to get stuff done when I have an empty stomach. Whereas when I'm full, I just want to relax and watch TV.
Just want to pig out or just veg out, right? Yeah.
Right. So psychologically, I think it has an effect too as well. Your brain is a little bit more clear too as well when you're hungry, because I think that's just an evolutionary thing where we're not used to being full so often. Yeah. So we have that hunter
mentality.
You know what I mean?
To get ready, to get focused. And all your senses are ready to
Yes.
survive.
And
Essentially,
then
right?
if you're smart, then you can turn that into fuel to get stuff done, to be productive, if you're smart.
All right, thank you for sharing. I know we kind of skipped some of the intros, so maybe you can go back to share us about your culinary background and what brought you to your private chef company today.
So that's a long 17-year
17 years.
process. I'll try to speed it up to not
Condense it,
bore
yeah.
to not bore everyone. So I started off 17 years ago as a dishwasher, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I started at chain restaurants, who shall not be named. And
Are they still around? Are these guys? Or?
yes, they are, but they're not as popular as they were back then.
Okay.
It's just the industry.
Yeah.
So I started off as a dishwasher. Within 2 weeks of doing it, I'm like, this is not for me. So I went to the kitchen manager and I said, you're always complaining about labor. Teach me how to work on the prep. And I'll wash all the dishes and then do the prep.
Yeah.
So you're getting 2 for 1.
Wow.
Back then, multi-training was never a thing. It was either you're a prep guy, you're a line guy. They weren't training people to do multiple things at that point in that particular company. So I was a little bit of a pioneer with that.
Nice.
Not realizing what I was doing. I just didn't want to wash dishes. So then I did that same process. Within 6 months, I was closing the line with no experience to 6 months closing the line.
Wow. Sorry, I'm unfamiliar. What does closing the line mean?
So closing the line means that you would start typically, depending on the style of restaurant, around 4 p.m. and then you're there until the end. Okay, so you're shutting off all the equipment. You're making sure the restaurant kitchen area is clean because you have different staff with different responsibilities. Then all the orders that's coming in. So the closer is typically the most experienced of everyone that's on the line because they have to know all the sections. So as the night winds down, we start to cut staff, which means sending them home. Because if you have, let's say, 20 people in the restaurant, but it's a 150 people restaurant, you don't need full staff. So as the night winds down, we start to cut the staff slowly with the least important, and then you go all the way up to the closer. The closer is the last person that's there. So that's what it's called, closing the restaurant.
Closing the last shift, yeah.
Yes. So from there, I did that while I was still in high school.
Wow.
It was just an income for me. I wanted to have my own money. It was always something that was instilled in me growing up from my father. It was it's always, okay, you want something, you got to go out and go get it yourself. Yeah. So from there, I had a little bit of a scuffle in the restaurant. It's a little bit of a jealousy, to be honest, because I learned that you should never tell people how much money you make from that young age. So as I progressed and I was getting all of these new trainings, I would always ask for a raise. So when those raises come in, it was like, okay, great. It was 25 cents here, 25 cents here, and then it added up. So once the oldest person that was working with the company figure out how much I was making, because I said so, because I was a kid still.
Yeah, you just kind of blurted it out.
Yes. And a little bit of an animosity started there. So I ended up, okay, I'm going to leave this because I don't like conflict, because not because I'm not capable. I just don't like.
It's not in your nature to want to. Yeah.
Exactly. So I was about to leave, and they convinced me to stay. I stood around there for a little bit longer, and then from there I just went on to work in a different location and dominate that location. Then by that time I was in grade 12. I was doing like $20K a year. Yeah,
balling, man.
Yeah, I was, but I blew all that money because I didn't understand money at that time. But I saved back some for school though.
Yeah.
So I did the whole process for 3 years, and then at the end of it, I'm like, okay, what do I want to do with myself? And one of the server told me, you should go to culinary school.
Okay.
At this time, I had no knowledge. I was just working, and it was just money. And it was
trade,
just
right?
money.
Yeah.
And from there, I went home and I looked up what's culinary school, because I had no idea. It was just, okay, teach me how to do this, or I'll watch you, and then that's how I would be learning.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the whole culinary concept, the history of it, what does some words mean, where the origin came from, difference between Italian and French, the mother sauces, and all of these things. Yeah. So eventually I went home and okay, this is cool. I can make some money doing this. Went to my guidance counselor the next day. I'm like, I want to do this. They're like, why do you want to do that? There's no money to be made.
Yeah.
So anyways, long story short, I decided that I wanted to go to culinary school. I went to George Brown. I studied culinary management and nutrition. The nutrition part is very important because I didn't want to learn the traditional culinary cuisines because for some weird reason, I foresee that maybe 15 years down the road,
Yeah.
people will be on this health wave. Government
Yeah.
would start to regulate stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was a luck or it was a voice that told me, but
Yeah.
I saw the future. So I decided that I didn't want to study the traditional culinary stuff. So I went to study nutrition. I got made fun of the entire time. Whenever I went to go do my apprenticeship, they were like, this is not real cooking.
Yeah.
I was a little bit ahead of my time.
Yeah.
So back
The
then,
foresight, yeah.
it was about 2012 when I graduated. People still didn't really have that.
The healthy eating kind of
Exactly. And all the
movement, right?
allergies and the
Yeah.
restrictions. Now it's working in my
Everything, right?
favor.
Yeah, no, it's great. You had the foresight to plan or foresee that, and now it's a big part of the cuisine offerings that you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
no, it's okay. So from there, I started to work in small restaurants, mom and pops, did my apprentice. I was just working everywhere I could possibly can because I wanted to have my own restaurant. That was the goal.
that was the goal.
And I wanted to fast track. So I always had like 2 or 3 jobs.
Yeah.
And part of it is like in the industry, when you're on the lower level, you don't make that much money anyways. So it was a situation where, okay, I'm going to work as much as I can and save. I already had that mentality from I graduated from college that, okay, I'm just going to work like crazy and save. And I wanted to have my own restaurant.
Nice.
So eventually I got a nice gig at a big company. They were doing like $13.5 billion a year at the time.
Wow.
You know who they are. They
Yeah.
shall not be named.
One of the biggest ones in Toronto, I'd take it. In
So
the
they're
world.
based in the United States,
Okay.
but they're the biggest between. There's 2 of them that does all of
The food.
the food business.
Food industry. Okay.
So I was there. I got my first sous chef position there,
Ah, nice.
where I meet one of the greatest chefs of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's unknown, but he was a really good chef. His name is Anthony Khan. By the time I got to him, he had a little bit of burnout syndrome, so he wasn't around long enough.
Yeah.
I ended up becoming the chef there after he left
Oh, wow. Okay.
within about a year.
Yeah. You must be still quite young at this point, right?
I was 24.
24 as the head chef.
Yes.
Wow.
It was a situation where they came in and they're this from the head office and they said to me, "You look smart enough. You can figure this out."
You know what you're doing,
It was
right?
quite literally the way the conversation went.
Wow. Okay.
So I said, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm giving you this backstory because this is where the fusion concept came from. So from there, I didn't know what I was doing. I was working 16-hour shift.
Yeah.
I was getting in at 6 a.m. and I was leaving at like 4 p.m. or 7 p.m. sometimes because I was trying to figure it out. I was trying to live up to his
Expectation.
standards,
Yeah.
his level of culinary skills, not to think about the fact that he had over a decade on me. So it's just not possible. So I realized that I couldn't compete with what his style of cooking was because he's very high end. He actually is a professor at Humber,
Wow.
and he teach the Canadian team to go compete
Okay.
like
Holy crap. Wow. Okay.
internationally. So he's on that level.
Yeah.
Why he's working for this company, I have no idea. So from there, I said, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to do me, my style,
Your style.
my culture. So then I started to do jerk chicken. And the crowd went, what's this?
What's this? It's different. Like
It's
something-
different.
Yeah.
So then I said, okay.
Because what was the cuisine traditionally before? Like what was this?
So the style is more of a cafeteria style. However, it's not your traditional cafeteria. It was for a pharmaceutical company with endless budget.
Okay.
So the staff there, they would pay $7 for a steak, lobster, you name it.
Wow.
It was capped at $7.
Oh my goodness.
So we were able to cook whatever we wanted.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was an endless budget, this pharmaceutical.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So then I said, okay, let me make pasta. Then I would make jerk chicken pasta. And then jerk chicken pasta. I was like, what's that?
What is that? Right? Yeah.
And then from there, they tried it. And I'm like, okay, I'm onto something here. So that's where the fusion started to come in. It was just because I was frustrated.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure a way out to break through to the staff that was working there because they had his standard of cooking.
Yeah.
And
There's
it's
their ways and his
amazing.
procedures. Yeah. And they're like, who is this kid coming in? Right? Like,
Exactly. So I just did me and I just started to experiment with my own culture. And I'm like, I think I'm onto something here. So then I started to do Indian.
Oh.
And then I started to do Portuguese. And then I started to mix Thai,
Yeah.
Vietnamese. I was just mixing everything and just see the reaction. So then I started to do a traditional spaghetti and meatball. I'll twist it. I'll do vermicelli noodles.
Okay.
I'll do butter chicken sauce, and I'll do a lamb meatball.
Oh, wow.
And I'll do cilantro instead of parsley. So then when I did that, that was a hit.
Game changer, right? Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm onto something here. So then corporate politics happened. I ended up leaving that company and I just, okay, put everything on back burner, started to work for another location or another company. And from there, it's just moving around. Okay, I don't like this because I'm one of those person. The moment they say you're making too much, I'm like, okay, bye. Right? It's just part of the business.
Yeah, it's part of the business model, right? So, yeah.
It's like you hit your cap. Okay, if I can't make any more, what am I doing here?
What's the point, right? Yeah. There's
So-
no incentive.
Exactly. So I was always like that. It didn't matter. Maybe it sounds ruthless, but the moment I hit my cap, I'm gone.
Yep.
There's just no point. So I then became a Polish chef.
A Polish chef? What's a Polish chef? Explain. Yeah.
So at the time I was living in Brampton,
Yeah.
and I always saw that they were always hired, and I'm like, this place. And I was looking for a new challenge, and I'm like,
Okay.
I can do this. I couldn't, but I'm like, it's
I can do
ego.
it. Yeah.
I'm like, I can do this. Like
Yeah.
Polish, it's
Polish food?
yeah,
Like,
I can
okay.
do this.
Yeah.
So I applied,
Yeah.
and they called me back. And to my surprise, I was working somewhere else at the time, and
Yeah.
I went in there and I said, okay, I want X amount, and they were like, okay. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
And
Did they try you, or like, do you have to cook something for them?
Yes,
Or how
they
do-
did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What was the?
I think that's one thing that's missing from the industry now is that you have a resume and they take your resume as word. When I got my first sous chef position,
Yeah.
I had to compete in a black box competition. That was the first time I've ever seen black cod. Didn't know what it was. Didn't know how to butcher it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you don't see very often up until this day. So I had to cook that, and I had to compete against another chef who had decades on me.
experience.
However,
Yeah.
my ability, by the way, the food sucked. But my ability to stay focused, and I was able to handle the pressure where he almost burned the kitchen down. He actually left an apron, it was not an apron, a dishcloth on the stove, and it caught on fire. And I was like, hey, it's on fire. And he's just like, and I'm like, hey,
Scrambling.
it's on fire.
Yeah.
And the chef was just there watching, and then I put it out. And I knew the food sucked because he didn't tell me, but his
His face reaction.
no.
Oh, no?
So his colleague told me. And I said, well, why did he hire me? And then I was told that it was my ability to not crack under pressure and stay focused, which is most important when you're in a fast-paced environment like a kitchen.
Like problem solving, think on your feet.
Yes,
Kind of like,
your culinary skills can only take you so far. So I always took that from that experience, and I'm like, okay, so if I'm able to stay focused and not crack under pressure, and I'll just
You handle
outwork
anything.
everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's what I did throughout my whole career. So anyways, back to the Polish.
Polish, yeah. The Polish.
So I
chef
went
now.
in there, I did a little bit of a display of what I'm capable of doing, and they're like, great, you're hired. Went through the whole process. I was there for 2 years, and it was a Polish. They're not so welcoming to outsiders.
I would say you must be the only non-Polish
At the time,
in the
yes.
kitchen.
They're not so open to outside. It was everyone Polish.
Yeah.
Everyone spoke Polish,
Polish,
with
yeah.
the exception of the younger crowd. They spoke some English, but it was like all Polish. The writing was in Polish. I had them translate. Okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
When they're speaking in Polish. It was just straight Polish. By the time I left, they were asking me to marry their daughter. I'm not even exaggerating, because I have this ability to work well with people, and I don't have an ego when it comes to competition. I think that it's unhealthy to have an ego when it comes to competition when you're working on the same team. If you're on the same team, you win, I win. We all make money together.
Yeah.
So I worked well with people in that way, and everyone else was older than me too as well. So you got to know, and I was the executive chef there.
Oh,
So
okay.
you have to know how to, you being a
Manage.
younger individual,
Yeah.
talking to people who are twice your age. And that's another skill set all to itself.
Wow.
So I was there for a bit. Then I left that company, went to go try something else. Someone offered me a really large bonus
To jump ship, yeah.
to jump ship,
Yeah.
which it's part of the game.
Yeah.
So
When you make a name for yourself and you're
Yes.
getting, rising up the ranks and you're getting all this kind of like notoriety.
Yeah.
right?
So actually, how this person, he called the banquet hall and he asked for me specifically, and they never stopped to ask who are you? Doesn't he have a cell phone? And he poached me from the company because he had an event there and he enjoyed the food, and his reaction was, "There's nowhere a Polish person cooked this." And this was an Indian guy, but anyways.
Yeah.
So from there, I jumped ship. This guy, I didn't like the way he did business. There's certain limits I have to how I'm willing to make money. So I'm not going to speak on it, but his business practices was not the way I like to do business.
Wasn't clean, yeah.
It wasn't clean.
Okay.
It would set people up to fail and then take over back the business after. So we're just going to leave it at that.
Okay.
So 3 months there, I left. Then I went to go work for McMichael's Art Gallery. So that's in Kleinberg. I was a chef there. It was a nice experience working there. Then eventually the Polish, they called me back. And it was a lot of, they're interesting people. I find that if you get to know them properly, they're very nice people.
Yeah.
But it takes a while for them to open up to
warm
you.
up to you, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So so from there, they called me back and I said, okay, I'm starting my own business. I'm not really interested because at that point, I was just getting frustrated with working for other companies. I'm like, I'm not going to put in the time and effort to build your dream.
Yeah.
So I was already starting to work on my own business.
Okay.
Then they're like, come back for a year. I said, okay. I'll come back for a year.
Yeah.
I'll give you time to find someone because the person that they found,
Wasn't a good fit, or
no, it wasn't a good fit.
Okay.
It's chefs are pretty nasty depending on how long they've been in the industry, and I mean nasty as I mean they're mean.
Oh, okay.
So
personality-wise,
Yes, personality-wise, they're not very nice. So you need to have that if you're going to be the head chef, because then the staff beneath you are going to resent you. You're not going to work as a team. Let's just say there's a wrapper on the floor. They're not going to pick it up unless you tell them. You want them to want to do this without you asking.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important. And I had that effect. That's because that if the dishwasher needed help, I'll go wash dishes.
Yeah.
And they will always be surprised. It's like, why are you washing dishes? I like, because I started as a dishwasher.
Yeah.
To bring it back full circle, because I know what it's like.
Yeah.
So then from there, I came back and I was working there for a bit. They still couldn't find anyone. Then COVID happened.
Okay.
So then COVID happened. Everything got shut
the industry
down.
was
No
pretty
one
much shut
knew
down,
what
yeah.
was going on. And they started to do meal, the Uber and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is not going to work, because who was doing Uber before, they're just going to expand. So the people who are coming into it as, okay,
Fresh and
new, it's going to be very hard to break into it, because there's already people that are out there that are doing it, and they're just going to put all their focus into that now. So
it's not even that profitable, I heard. Like Uber takes a big chunk, right? Uber Eats takes a big chunk.
it's peanuts. You need to do volumes.
Yeah.
You need to do large volumes in order to make a profit. And if it's some kind of if it's some type of restaurant that has a very good food cost, then you can, typical
okay.
Asian restaurants, right? The food cost is
much lower.
not, it's a lot lower. So
Yeah.
a lot of vegetables, and the rice is cheap. So whereas other restaurants, you're serving steaks and chicken, it's just very
It's too expensive, yeah.
So anyways, that didn't work. And then the conversation came to have a pay cut. Because they're not making any money. They didn't want to let me go. And there was another chef that was there too as well. All the other staff got laid off, but it was just both
Just
of
the two
us.
of you guys left.
And then it came to the point, I'm like, okay, I was already leaving already. You asked me to stay, so let's just part ways here. And we just, got laid off. And 3 months, figuring out what I wanted to do. I already knew that the industry was going in the private chef direction. Because bring it back to 2014, where I was working with the chef Anthony Khan, he brought me on an event. It was my first time making $1,000 in one day
Oh, wow.
back in 2014.
2014. Yeah.
And I was shocked. I said to him, people pay this kind of money?
Wow.
And he started to laugh. And he said, you get there eventually. And I'm like, so that was always in the back of my head from 2014 all the way up to COVID.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, if people were willing to pay that kind of money for having someone coming into their home and cook for them,
Yeah.
this is amazing. This is where I'm going.
Yeah.
So the whole restaurant concept went out the
window.
window.
Yeah.
'Cause
Don't need
I'm
a
like,
physical brick
I
and
don't need a
mortar.
physical
Yeah.
location. I don't need a bunch of staff. I don't need a bunch of tax. I don't need any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So it all happened. COVID happened. I decided, okay, I'm going to go in this direction. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. I'm not making any money. I bought a new car. I renovated my basement to do the production.
Yeah.
I spent thousands of dollars on ads because I was saving all of this money to get up
over
to
the
the
years.
restaurant.
Yeah.
So I was just throwing money at it. And the platform where Eddie found me on, where he referred you to me. So he found me on this platform that shall not be named. And they were taking up all the ad space because they're a bigger company, they're a global company, they're all around the world that doesn't have a conflict in it. They're there. So I started to work with them because that's the only way I could see I can build my clientele base. So I started to work with them, and within 3 months, I was profitable.
Nice.
Then it just took off like a rocket ship because it was still in the middle of the whole COVID,
shutdown, right?
and no one had any clue what was going on still, but they were frustrated because they're like, okay, this is way too long. Then the vaccine wasn't available yet, so most people still weren't going out. And I'm like, this is perfect.
They were still shut down, right?
Yes,
So,
this is perfect. And charge whatever I want because people are frustrated. So then from there, I just started to travel everywhere. I was based in Brampton. I was going to Niagara. I was going to Niagara on the Lake. I was going in Bowmanville. I was going in Blue Mountain.
Oh my goodness.
I was going everywhere.
Yeah.
So that allowed me to build up my clientele faster because I was willing to travel to whatever distance I needed to go to.
Yeah.
Then from there, what I did was those clients, now I have their contact information. Now I don't have to go through the platform anymore.
Yeah.
So I use the platform almost as a marketing agency or a funnel. Once I get the client, then they're mine. If I do a good job, of course, then they're going to come back. So this whole private chef thing, if you go my route, it's a delayed gratification situation because the platform, they take a large commission and you still got to pay tax. You still got to pay for all the expense of the ingredients and whatnot.
So direct to consumer. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's pretty much how I started in the private chef business. Is just COVID happened. It was an opportune time. It was an opportunity for everyone if you saw the opportunity.
Yeah.
So from there, I just started to like branch out into doing like small things because what I wanted to do was once I have the client, I want them to be a client for life. So then now I started to offer meal prep to those clients.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
You didn't tell me about that. I need some of those.
Yes. So what I started to do is I started to do meal prep because most people, they're going to have an event once a year. That's not...
Yeah, it's not
you need
sustainable.
hundreds of clients in order if you're going to do an event once a year with a client. So I figured, okay, let's start to do meal prep with these clients. They were already asking for it anyways. I kept saying no because it's expensive to start. The overhead cost is expensive, the shipping, the packaging, and whatnot. The other question.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. That's why it's been great to hear some of this kind of the journey that you've gone. I think some of the questions we have here, you've covered most of them, but some of the different events that you've been to. What's been the most interesting event, I think, so far?
So the most interesting events that I've done by far are the bachelorette parties. I know that's always everyone's reaction.
Yeah,
it's interesting, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. Other than the bachelorette parties, like I find that the clientele that see the value and are willing to pay are like the best kind of events. So for example, I have clients who they'll rent a yacht. It's 2 people. They'll spend $6,000 on the yacht.
Wow.
And then they'll pay the chef a substantial amount of money. Then they'll have a musician on the yacht. It's so those are some of the more interesting events that I've done. Or you'll have clients that they'll do small weddings, and it's just the bride and the groom. Because this was like during the whole COVID thing.
Yeah,
They were saying, 5 people, 10 people, 1 people, and then you had clients who had their weddings. And they were just getting frustrated. They're like, okay, we're going to do this thing. They do a nice Airbnb. They'll have the DJ there, all the other stuff that you would have at a regular wedding. They just have it there, and it's just two people.
Just the two of them, right? Just for the experience.
Just for the experience, right? No one was giving back deposits. So they just decided, okay, you're going to work.
Just enjoy it, right? Yeah.
Right. So, one other interesting event that I have had is I get to meet celebrities.
Oh, okay.
So
Can you name any, or are you allowed to name any?
Yeah, they're on my Instagram. They follow me. So,
okay.
So there's a Canadian music band called Walk Off the Earth Entertainment. So I met them through the platform.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then they became a reoccurring client because they
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed the service, they love the food, and it means a lot for someone who travels the world. To say that
they trust in you.
Your product is good, and then give referrals to like their other friends too as well that are in the celebrity space. So doing this thing, I've met a lot of interest. Some people I just can't say because they're very private with their life, but I've met a lot of interesting people that you would know, people who are well up on the food chain. And it's interesting when you get to speak to these people, you realize that they're just so similar to you.
Just like normal people.
They're just normal people, and they want you to treat them normal. And that's how I find that I've been able to build a great relationships with them, because to me, they're not celebrities. You're just another client.
Like a hungry client, right?
Yes, exactly.
No, that's great. And obviously we're a real estate talk show. So, you go into a lot of people's homes. What are some of the, unique real estate properties or homes or special that you can disclose for sure? Like,
yes. So I've been in homes where you get lost going through the bathroom. It's massive.
The mega mansions, right?
Yes, it's massive, but it's only 2 people that lives in it because the kids are older. They're gone off to school. And I've been in homes where the kitchen are multi-million-dollar kitchen.
Wow.
And they don't work.
They don't work? Oh, it's like they've never been utilized.
They've never been utilized. So when you try to turn something on, the sensor isn't working out. I can't call the brands for obvious reasons, but there are certain brands out there. There are the big brands that everyone knows and everyone likes to use. And you would turn on the ovens, and if you need to sear something in the oven at say 425 or 450, then the sensor that's built in, the oven will shut off automatically because it's a safety feature. Same thing with the induction cooktops too as well. So I prefer gas everything now because they have less technology that's built into them.
Okay.
So and I've been to homes where there have been clients that they produce like these kind of appliances. I don't want to call their name. No free promo here, sorry. And they produce outdoor kitchens and stuff like that. So I've seen like how they develop these things and some of the ridiculous amount of money people would pay for something that you can build for $5,000. They'll pay $50,000 for because it's a name brand.
It's marketing, all
right.
Name brand.
So that's very important, right? You learn about the power of marketing and building a brand. And I've just been in like small condos and apartments where people are just happy to have the service and they're pretty down to earth.
No, that's a range.
Yes.
Great wealth of experience you're sharing with us. And unfortunately, we're kind of running out of time, but we'll definitely have to have you come back and prepare another kind of treat for us, hopefully. But before we wrap up, one type of, one of the questions we like to ask our guests before they go is like, what's the one type of food you can eat for the rest of your life? Just, I know we're in the chef, but that's for everyone. Like, what would you personally want to?
Tuna and rice.
Tuna and rice? Why?
It's simple.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot of work. And I mean tuna from the can, to be specific.
Oh, tuna from the can. Okay. I thought you were talking about some ahi tuna.
No.
So it's just
So tuna from the can.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
This is my go-to dish when I'm tired.
Yeah.
The rice takes 45 minutes. The tuna takes like 5 minutes, just a little bit of garlic, onions, saute, and just pop the tuna from the can, and there you go.
Okay.
Right? I know that always shocks people when
Yeah.
I say that. That's like my go-to dish is
go-to.
tuna and rice.
Tuna and rice. All
Yes.
right. I'll have to get the recipe and try that one.
You don't need any recipe. It's very simple.
Okay, well, that wraps up for this episode for our TimSold Talks. A huge thank you to Chef Salmon for coming. Tell our audience, where can they find you?
Okay, so you can find me at AuthenticFusionCatering.com or on Instagram at Authentic Fusion Catering.
Okay, and we'll post the links below for everyone to kind of follow. So if you enjoyed today's episode and you're looking for buying, selling, investment, and real estate advice, please follow us on all our platforms. Leave us a 5-star review. Go check out Chef Salmon's websites, and all his links will be posted below. Remember, guys, if you want to dream it, you got to remember to dream it, believe it, and achieve it. It's beautiful that he sell homes. Thank you very much for listening.
Perfect. Thank you,
Chef. Hi, I'm Tim Kern, and I proudly lead the TimSold team. We're voted as one of the top 3 brokerages in Markham, and we will sell your house fast and for top dollar with the least amount of hassle, or we guarantee to buy it. Call us today and start packing.